Hello, this is Ahona. Greetings from Bangladesh Institute of Peace and Security Studies. BIPSS and Dhaka Tribune hosts a roundtable every month on a contemporary and strategic issue. We have successfully organized 4 roundtables so far, and in this 5th installment, we are discussing the strategic significance of the Bay of Bengal and the role of Bangladesh. And we have a distinguished set of speakers to talk about it. I'd like to request our President, Major General Muniruzzaman, to state his opening remarks and moderate the rest of the session. Thank you.
Thank you, Ahona, and a very good afternoon to all of you, distinguished participants, excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, and assalamu alaikum to all of you. This is a series of roundtables that we are hosting together with the Dhaka Tribune, and we address key strategic and security issues every month. This month's focus is on the Bay of Bengal, its strategic significance, and the role of Bangladesh. This is a topic which is of very pertinent interest to Bangladesh and the countries in the region and beyond. Located on the northeastern part of the Indian Ocean, the Bay of Bengal today is central to international politics, economy, and strategy. In his very famous book, The Monsoon, written by Robert D. Kaplan, he argued that the Indian Ocean region is on its way to becoming the nexus of world power and conflict in the future. And that indicates the significance not only of the IOR or the Indian Ocean region, but also the Bay of Bengal. The Bay of Bengal today is one of the busiest shipping routes and lanes, with over 50,000 ships passing the area every year. It is a repository of vast amount of marine resources and holds the key to the energy security and resources of the region. It is also one of the largest water body in the world. Being the largest bay in the world, it covers 839,000 square miles, with countries like Bangladesh, India, Myanmar, Sri Lanka bordering the bay. It sits between 2 key political and economic regions of SAARC and ASEAN, and also onward connecting to the Middle East and its oil resources. It has increasingly become the focus of rising powers, in particular India and China, and also the focus of external powers like United States, the UK, Japan, and many others. It has seen of late large presence of international military and maritime resources coming to the region. Therefore, it's a place that needs attention of all strategic thinkers and anybody working with the security policy of the region. Unfortunately, neither the IOR nor the Bay of Bengal has a security infrastructure. So that makes the region even more volatile because of the lack of the existing security infrastructure. Is a playground for any power or most powers. Historically, India has treated the Indian Ocean on the Bay of Bengal as its backwater. But that is increasingly being contested by other powers. I see in the strategic writings coming out of Beijing that China says that Indian Ocean is not India's ocean. So therefore, it's a water which is being increasingly contested by rising powers and existing powers. We are at a juncture in Bangladesh where Bangladesh sits in a strategic location at a key entry point of the Bay of Bengal. We are a major maritime nation. We can play a critical role not only in the Bay of Bengal, but in the whole Indian Ocean littoral area. We are a member of IORA. We are a member of all other track 1, track 2 processes in the IOR. So Bangladesh is now becoming a key strategic player in the Indonesian region and also in the Bay of Bengal. We can, in fact, become a key security player and a net provider of security in the Bay of Bengal. The Bay also holds large amount of mineral resources, economic resources that can come to the aid of not only Bangladesh, but the countries in the region. These are key issues under discussion here today on the table, and some of these issues should be addressed by our excellent panel this afternoon. As usual, for all participants, you know that our panelists will give their opening remarks, after which we go into a discussion with the participants, which is the portion that I enjoy most. So without further ado, we will go back to our panel to give their opening remarks, and we will start with Brigadier Shahedul Anam Khan, the former associate editor of the Daily Star.
The topic, let me repeat, is the strategic significance of the Bay of Bengal, the role of Bangladesh. I would rather see it as strategic significance and what is it at stake for Bangladesh, because unless we actually are aware of what is at stake, it will be impossible, or if not impossible, difficult to determine the position that we should assume in addressing and facing these situations arising out of the developments related to the Bay of Bengal and the Indo-Pacific. My remit is to discuss on this strategic significance of Bay of Bengal, the Indo-Pacific strategy vis-a-vis the Bay of Bengal, the Belt and Road Initiative and the Bay of Bengal, the Big B and the IORA. It's a very tall order, and I shall not attempt to cover all these, but perhaps make a very broad brush reference to each of these en passant, and perhaps leave it to the distinguished participants to ask questions and during the question and answer session, and perhaps fill in the gaps that perhaps I will leave deliberately because of want of time. Bay of Bengal has gained salience in recent times, and for good reasons. And let me quote a renowned author in regard to this. He says, and it is Professor Kenneth MacPherson on the Bay of Bengal. He says, the region was the home of world's earliest urban civilization and the center of the first sophisticated commercial and maritime activities. The ocean area was a great highway and source of food and raw materials, molding the man and the societies on its shores in a composite, homogeneous, and ecological unit. I'm afraid the homogeneity was lost after the process of decolonization set in. And the unity that existed during the colonial period, even during the ancient times, from the Chola period in southern India, the homogeneity was sundered because in the post-colonial era, for some obvious reasons. Most of it was nationalism and our impulse to protectionism. So what was an integrated region became disintegrated, and it was known as rather an area of disintegration rather than integration. And just sort of compare, ASEAN has 25% integration in terms of trade and other issues, whereas South Asia has 5% integration. And as I said, it was one Greater India, Burma, and Malaya under the colonial structure. There was no East Asia, Southeast Asia, or South Asia. There was one Asia covering this area, or situated in this region. Now, as I said, it has gained salience because of the fact that the focus of the West has turned east for some compelling reasons, post-Cold War. The focus was in the Middle East and in the West. After the Cold War, because of the Asian century that one predicted, because of the economic trajectory this region and the countries led by China, Japan, and India would take, the focus was obviously on Asia, and therefore on Indo-Pacific, the term, the fixation from Asia-Pacific to Indo-Pacific, and of course the Bay of Bengal, which is a very important adjunct of the Indo-Pacific. And again, I quote another erudite scholar in regards to Bay of Bengal, who says, the Bay of Bengal is starting to become whole again and is starting to the center of history. No one interested in geopolitics can afford to ignore the Bay of Bengal any longer. There is a new old order center of the world, joining the two demographic immensities of the Indian subcontinent and East Asia. It's Robert Kaplan writing and is critical of Bay of Bengal. What is the economic clout of the Bay of Bengal? I'll come to the strategic significance, but just as a prefatory comments, the economic clout, 1.4 billion people reside in this Bay of Bengal area. 2.7 trillion combined GDP, 5 to 6% growth annually. And the BIPSS of world economy predicts a 1 trillion CFT oil and gas reserve along India, Bangladesh, Myanmar coast. It's immense potential. It's immense future. And look at Bangladesh and the Bay of Bengal. As General Munir mentioned, we'll often lose of the fact that Bangladesh is a maritime country. It's a maritime country. 24,024 kilometers square of internal sea and 138,945 kilometers square of EEZ compared. And the land territory or the sea territory is 1.1 times or 1.5 times larger than the land territory. Compare that. Bangladesh is located in this stand-up. I wish there was a map of the Bay of Bengal. We are located at the approaches of the Malacca Strait, something that the China is very worried about. And Malacca Strait is something that is modulating China's behavior, China's policies, China's actions, and China's strategic postures at the Malacca Strait. I'll come to that eventually. The only seaport that is near the landlocked Indian Seven Sisters, Chittagong. More than 32 million people live in the coastal zone of the Bay of Bengal, Bangladesh. And 4 million people are directly involved in sea fishing with the trawlers, mechanical, and country boats. 90% of GNP depends on sea trade, in Bangladesh. And almost 100% of Bangladesh's energy requirement in terms of fuel comes through the sea from the Middle East. So you can imagine the immense dependence of Bangladesh on the sea. Now come to the strategic significance of the Bay of Bengal. It is the most important part of the Indo-Pacific, hemmed by India and Thailand, and just like the points, it oversees major trade routes, two major trade routes, and it connects the two largest oceans. So Bay of Bengal is an economic connector. It connects South Asia and Southeast Asia. As I said, there was no South and South Asia at one time. It connects the region with the major oil resources in the Middle East. Occupies the heart of the Indo-Pacific. It is something like the South China Sea. An important South China Sea, and say so juxtapose South China Sea and the Bay of Bengal. And it's proximate to two future big powers, the China and India. And the largest economies, militaries, and population, these two countries, which are destined to lead, as I said, the Pacific Asian century. This has become and will become the prime zone of economic competitions. I'll come to that later on. Again, the focus has shifted for a couple of relevant reasons. One is India is looking to the southeast waking up to the importance of the Southeast, which started in 1990 with Narasimha Rao looking east, and later on with Modi acting east. The focus of India has shifted to Southeast Asia. And India's 1/4 of India's 1.2 billion people live along the coast of Bay of Bengal. 1/4 of its 1.2 billion people, a humongous number. And therefore, if India is worried about other powers in the Bay of Bengal, perhaps it is not too unjustified to feel worried, because it would also like to leverage its position on the Bay of Bengal and maintain peace and stability and derive the benefits, strategic benefits and economic benefits that accrues from being where it is geopolitically. Obviously, because of the importance of Bay of Bengal, it has invited external powers. Well, Bay of Bengal, to be very frank, China is not a resident power, neither is the US. But these two countries are more interested than any other countries, again for their strategic reasons, in the Bay of Bengal. And when I say Bay of Bengal, I mean interminglingly or sort of fungibly Bay of Bengal and Indo-Pacific, because Bay of Bengal opens to the Indo-Pacific on either side. So the US, Japan, Australia, Singapore, Korea, Malaysia all recognize the Bay of Bengal's importance. It's also been motivated by China's very proactive diplomacy, which America prefers to call as predatory economics. And China's use of smart power. Let us come to the Indo-Pacific strategy vis-a-vis the Bay of Bengal. In fact, the Indo-Pacific strategy and Bay of Bengal and China's BRI are all intermixed. And just cast back the time of the formulation or the enunciation of the BRI policy by Xi Jinping, the articulation of Look East by Obama and Hillary Clinton, they're about the same, the timeline, 2012-13, 2014. The Look East policy of Obama and Clinton, which then sort of mutated into Indo-Pacific policy. And of course, the China's Belt and Road, but perhaps happened almost simultaneously. So which was generated by which is for you to sort out, but it all happened simultaneously. But one perhaps motivated the other, one perhaps generated the other, because it is said that because of China's BRI, because of China's MSR, because of China's enlarged footprint into not only Southeast Asia, but beyond, into Africa and in Europe, the Americans felt that it had to be countered with the policy, which eventuated as the Indo-Pacific policy, and now the Build Better policy. Isn't it, if I'm correct, the Build Better policy, the American policy of Build Better. Build Back Better, yeah. Yeah, that's right. So the Indo-Pacific policy is no longer nebulous, it is very concrete, and America is willing to deploy all power and force to ensure that the FOIP, the Free and Open Indo-Pacific, is not hampered. And its insistence on the rule-based international order. You see the example of rule-based international order. What is happening in Ukraine? A good example of rule-based international order. I mean, I'm being a bit facetious in saying that, and I know the location of my tongue in relation to my cheek when I say that there is nothing as a rule-based order in this world. And I hope this issue will come up of Ukraine and the invasion of Ukraine. Now come to the BRI. As I said, BRI, MSR, and the Indo-Pacific are all interlinked, and they're sort of interwoven. China's BRI, more investment. If there is more investment, and of course, then there will be more employment of resources to protect the investment. And sometimes, and not more often, the investment is in terms of military assets. But more importantly, the Bay of Bengal, China sees this as a panacea for its Malacca dilemma, because 80% of Chinese oil passes through Malacca. Nilfar, Lalafur, you can correct me if I'm wrong. 80%, 70 to 80%. 80%. It is correct. It is correct. So China wants to sort of circumvent this problem, and the only way to do that is to find other routes. And what better than the Kaikwepu port in Kyapu, Chakpu, Pakpu. If Kyati starts, so Kyakpu must be Chakpu, whatever it is. So the port there, and of course the China-Pakistan economic corridor and the China-Myanmar economic, all the sorts of economic corridors, and of course Chinese sort of the prevalent thought of in the mind of Chinese plan is infrastructure, because you build infrastructure, you link people, you connect. And once you connect, you become interdependent. Once you become interdependent, the chances of conflict are lessened, hopefully. But perhaps I would cast your mind to the fact that the Indian positions, the American positions, eventually that sort of mutated into the triad, the AUKUS, is because of Chinese expansion, naval expansion. Although China is there to catch another 50 to 60 years by the time it catches up militarily, China, if ever, the naval expansion. But look at the mindset of the Chinese leaders. In 2012, in the 18th Party Congress, Hu Jintao articulated the need to safeguard maritime rights and interests. 6 years later, Xi Jinping articulated the need for a powerful navy. And a year later, he said, in a defense white paper, not he, but Chinese, a strong and powerful navy capable of carrying out mission on the far seas. You see the gradual incremental development of philosophy, of strategic philosophy, from safeguarding our coastlines to projecting power. So now we know that China doesn't have the ability to project power in the way other countries have, developed countries, but it has the intention. So if you have the intention, it is acquiring the capabilities. Intention change, you have to gain the capabilities to implement the intentions. So I'm just flagging this point for you to comment back here, sir. 1 minute, 60 seconds?
You will come back again.
I'll come back again. Okay, the Bay of Bengal, or the Big B, the Bay of Bengal, the industrial growth belt, which Japan has come into an agreement with Bangladesh involving $5 billion, and it is to gain to sort of offset or counter whatever we wish to call Chinese sort of influence, in a way, partly by involving Bangladesh, and that was sort of a part of the Abenomics. 2014, when Shankar Abe visited Bangladesh, signed the deal. And its intention was sort of to leverage Bangladesh's centrality in the Bay of Bengal in development projects, primarily connectivity and deep sea development. We'll come to that later on. The IORA, again, need not tell you that it was the brainchild of the famous man of the 20th century, Nelson Mandela. And I quote when he said, "The natural urge of the facts of history and geography should broaden itself to include the concept of an Indian Ocean Rim for socio-economic cooperation and other possible endeavors. Recent changes in the international system demand that the countries of the Indian Ocean shall become a single platform." Nelson Mandela, 1995. And eventually 23 members become a part of IOR, which 10 members observe states. Again, the IOR terms of reference, the BIPSS terms of reference, and other sub-regional terms of reference, they overlap. They are the same. Blue economy, cooperation, connectivity, and of course the climate change. So the interests overlap. And if you sort of look at the text, you'll find there's the three main sort of issues that prevail on the minds of the planners, of the participants. Cooperation, connectivity, economic development, the blue economy, make use of the blue economy, and sort of the maritime awareness. There is some called maritime awareness, some called the area awareness that the countries need to do. So in short, gentlemen, ladies and gentlemen, it was a very broad brush. I'm sorry for the way I had to rush, but these four things that perhaps would have underlined the growing importance of the Bay of Bengal and the need for Bangladesh. The consequence of the importance, the consequence of the big players' role, the consequence of demand of the big players, which causes countries like us, Bangladesh, to be sandwiched between big powers, and the need for countries like us to modulate our foreign policy in a manner which will eventually utilize the benefits of these groupings without getting into any overt or covert military alliances. And on that note, I would like to end, hoping that we'd be able to sort of indulge in further discussions in the question and answer session.
Thank you very much for your very elaborate explanation of the issues related to strategy of the area. A point that we must remember from the presentation that the Bay of Bengal has tremendous demographic relevance. A quarter of the global population lives along the shores of the countries that border the Bay of Bengal. 400 million people live in the catchment area of the Bay of Bengal alone. So these are large demographic relevance. But what worries us in Bangladesh as a littoral country, as a member country of the Bay, is the rapid militarization of the maritime space. In the absence of a security architecture, several powers are entering the Bay with military motives and missions and aims. We today have some major naval exercises taking place in the Bay and in the IWAR. For example, the Malabar series of exercises happen every year, participated by the United States, Japan, India, and this year by Australia. We also have, for the first time, about 3 months back, the Chinese Navy, the Russian Navy, and the Iranian Navy carrying out a naval exercise in the IWAR. We have the Milan series of exercise initiated by India, where 16 Asian and African navies participate. So the maritime space very close to us is rapidly becoming militarized. We, as a littoral country of the IOR and a member country of the Bay of Bengal, must take the initiative now so that this process of militarization halts. We want a Bay of Bengal which is a zone of peace. We are the current chair of IORA, and this is a good time for Bangladesh to float some of the strategic concepts and ideas. So as we talk about these issues, the previous speaker has also mentioned about what is being called the Malacca dilemma. So the Malacca dilemma really worries some countries in the region, particularly China. China today is also worried about the close proximity of Andaman Nicobar and its assets, both naval and air, being able to reach the Malacca Straits. So there is a double strategic worry on the part of China that needs to be addressed. China is also rapidly reaching the Bay of Bengal through the BRI and also to the projected BCIM. The BCIM has been currently stalled for some time, but the BRI corridor is progressing. The CIMEC China-Myanmar economic corridor has already been completed. So therefore, China is already able to reach the Bay of Bengal and the Indian Ocean to Yakpu in Rakhine. When the corridor progresses to Bangladesh, it will be able to enter the Bay of Bengal and the Indian Ocean area through Chittagong. So it will have double entries into the Bay of Bengal and into the Indian Ocean region. So major powers are racing to reach the Bay and then onward to the Indian Ocean. These are issues that we must understand now and take note of. And to address these issues, I couldn't find a better speaker than to give us his explanation, and that will be Rear Admiral Kazi Hossain, Bangladesh's former ambassador to the Maldives and the former DG of the Bangladesh Coast Guard. Admiral, you have the floor.
I would like to thank Brigadier Shahedul Anam also, sir, because you laid down a very good path for me to progress. I guess some of the things that I take cue from the socio-economic and the political integration that you talked about that converged in the Bay of Bengal. So having taken cue from that, what I intend to do is to re-examine of course, how geostrategic underpinnings have overshadowed or to some extent overtaken, if you will, the politico-economic construct and the aspirations of the littorals of the Bay of Bengal. I realize there would be some repetition, some information would be repetitive, but those will be in context. Towards the end, if I have time, if the chairman allow me some time, I want to talk about the climatic change aspect and the ecology of the Bay of Bengal, very briefly. But if there are any issue that we are pressing us, we can always discuss during the interactive sessions. The strategic significance of Bay of Bengal actually are anchored on three principal coordinates. These are, firstly, the maritime connectivity that connects the regions through the maritime space, trade and commerce that are undertaken along the Bay of Bengal and connected choke points, and also the critical infrastructures that have been built by the regional countries and also the extra-regional powers that are likely to be used for dual purpose, military, firstly for the commercial purpose and also for the military purpose in times of crisis. So the connectivity issue, I will very briefly talk about. Just to connectivity issue is mainly connecting the two of the greatest oceans of the Indian Ocean and Pacific Oceans, which have added tremendous geostrategic value to the Bay of Bengal, as Brigadier Shahid already talked about. Bay of Bengal is seen as the economic highway of the world. And a staggering amount of 50,000 merchant ships traverse through Bay of Bengal, carrying 1/4 of the commodity that are traded in the world. The Bay of Bengal is also important for the energy trade route that it hosts between the Gulf countries and the East Asia, which goes through the Strait of Malacca. As far as the trade and commerce is concerned, the maritime trade and commerce is concerned, we have to understand the rapid industrialization and development of the East Asian countries, especially China becoming the manufacturing center of the world. Now, to support these industrial development and manufacture, the raw materials that goes through Bay of Bengal. And also the Malacca Strait is used extensively by the China and the Far East Asian countries for transportation of these goods that goes to East Asia. We heard about the Malacca dilemma. If I have time, I will talk about this in some detail. As far as the critical maritime infrastructures are concerned, there are a number of critical maritime infrastructure that have come up along the coast of Bay of Bengal, which has added tension to the strategic construct of the Bay of Bengal. Few among those would be like Yagpu port, which has been built on the coast of Myanmar by India, by China. And China is aspiring to open a second coast along the Bay of Bengal, connecting the Rakhine province with the southern eastern province of Yunnan in China. So they also have a well-and pipeline from Yagpu to the Yunnan province, which is likely to export 6% of the energy inputs that China receives every year. On the contrary, India is contemplating to open up a Kaladan multimodal project from the port of Sitwe in Myanmar. Now, there is a strategic significance of these Kaladan multimodal project, which has different dimensions. Number one, this would provide India with a direct access to his northeastern states, which are landlocked at this point of time, and also India would be able to bypass Bangladesh should it be necessary at some point of time. So Kaladan multimodal project would give India the staying power and the endurance to undertake commercial and military operation at the same time. Then there are Hambantota in Sri Lanka, which we have heard about. We all know, but there are a lot of controversy mired in this Hambantota seaport. But then that also has the potential to be used for dual purpose. There are speculation that the Chinese Navy submarines could be operating from the Hambantota seaports in times of crisis. Lastly, I want to talk very briefly about Matarbari deep seaport, which is the main deep seaport of one of the deep seaport of Bangladesh coming into operation soon. It is already operating at some degree of operationalization, but it would come into full force soon. Matarbari would be a deep sea port which would offer Bangladesh an enormous opportunity to open up its trade, not with the littorals of the Bay of Bengal, but also with the other regions of the world. Now, these significance that we discussed not only bestowed the Bay of Bengal the commercial opportunities and also economic success, but it also brought a lot of tensions and confrontation within the regional countries and also within the extra-regional powers, adding a sense of fluidness, complexity to the strategic construct. The strategic construct of to understand the strategic construct of the Bay of Bengal, I believe we need to understand the push and pull factors that lead to the existence of these crises and tensions and also confrontation. The push and pull factors would be convergence of the interest of extra-regional powers, number one. Number two would be maritime power projection. And number three would be the increased militarization of the region. In the recent years, geo-economic and geostrategic interests of some of the extra-regional powers are converging towards the Bay of Bengal. They recognize the tremendous potential that the region has due to its enormous demographic capability and strength and the value of strategic goods that transit through these Bay of Bengal. China is a key player which you have already heard about, but China's energy geometry in Bay of Bengal, especially her Malacca dilemma, has posed a strategic challenge for China to conduct her trade and development activities. China's quest for Bay of Bengal has two factors attached to it. One is to maintain the commercial passage and trade corridor to the Gulf state and beyond, and on the other hand, to support its ambition to emerge as a reckonable global power. India's strategy in Bay of Bengal so far developed on three axes. One is to counter potential threats from China and its military presence in the immediate neighborhood. Secondly, to strengthen the military partnership with its friends and partners to balance China. Thirdly, to emulate Beijing's quest for foreign military presence and maritime power projection. Because of the historical mistrust between India and China, these two nuclear-powered neighbors view Bay of Bengal as a crucial frontier for competition over energy resources and securing sea lanes of communication. Delhi is particularly concerned about the BRI initiative and the number of ports and outposts that have been created by China along the coast of Bay of Bengal, especially the ports and other facilities which have been operated by and built by the Chinese state-owned companies, which can be act as an outpost of China in times of crisis. Another important extra-regional power, United States, has a lot of stake in Bay of Bengal also. Their strategy revolves around two factors. Firstly, to maintain Bay of Bengal as a secure highway for international commerce between the Gulf states and an economically dynamic East Asia. Secondly, to maintain freedom of navigation through the strategic choke points of the Strait of Malacca and the South China Sea. Other actors like Japan and Australia are also taking keen interest in Bay of Bengal affairs, where the main objective of Japanese involvement is to remain active in the economic front, but both Japan and Australia are members of Quadrilateral Security Dialogue and have aspirations to operate in the Bay of Bengal region. Japan for herself is working on a secret project to extend the range of sound-operated surveillance system over the shores of Andaman and Nicobar Islands, apparently to detect the submarine transiting through the Bay of Bengal. This is a very high value and very highly technical surveillance system which Japan is contemplating to extend up to Andaman shores of Andamans. Australia is also allocating substantial amount of resources to its navy to be able to extend its reach to the waters of Bay of Bengal. The growing geostrategic rivalry in the Bay of Bengal between the regional and extra-regional powers have given rise to increased military activities. Indian military maritime strategy, in consonance with the United States Asia-Pacific rebalancing strategy, explicitly articulated the strategy of concerted action to contain the rise of China. The core of this strategy revolves around the initiative to formulate a security alliance and bolster economic cooperation and create multilateral format of capable maritime forces. According to Maritime Capability Perspective Plan of India for 2007 to 2022, India plans to acquire more than 160 ships with 40 major combatants and 400 aircrafts. It also has a plan to put together a fleet of 28 conventional and few nuclear-powered submarines in the Navy. India has been building its military power in the Bay of Bengal, including naval and air facilities in the Andaman and Nicobar Islands, potentially to dominate the western end of Malacca Strait and surrounding waters. Indian Navy is also gradually upgrading the facilities of the Eastern Naval Command, which is located at Visakhapatnam, with fleet, ships and submarines. At the region level, Indian Navy has increased its naval cooperation with other littoral countries including Myanmar, Bangladesh and Sri Lanka. Indian Navy supplied a submarine to Myanmar last year and transferred a number of naval hardwares to the littoral navies. Indian Navy regularly organizes naval exercises and drills with the navies not only of the littorals of Bay of Bengal but also of the other regions. Exercise Milan, as our chairman just talked about, is a flagship initiative of Indian Navy to increase its naval preparedness and also to show her maritime presence in and around Bay of Bengal. The Chinese policymakers, on the other hand, see a strong navy not only as a force for national defense, but an instrument of expanding and sustaining its economic presence in the area. Given this strategic atmosphere, Beijing's primary military goal is to transform the People's Liberation Navy into a blue water force capable of projecting force outside the China's near abroad and also in the Bay of Bengal area. As of last year's report, Chinese Navy has the largest naval fleet in the world with 355 combat ships, including 2 aircraft carriers. It is assessed that the number could reach 420 by 2025 and 460 by 2030. They also operate a fleet of sophisticated submarine in the range of number of 70 submarines with 7 ballistic missile carrying submarine and 12 nuclear powered submarines. Of late, Chinese submarines and survey vessels have increased their routine visits in the surrounding waters of the Bay of Bengal. On 24 December 2021, Chinese Navy transferred a Ming-class submarine to Myanmar. Ming-class submarines has also been transferred to Bangladesh Navy by China in 2016. She also transferred surface ships, weaponry, equipment and armament regularly to Bangladesh, Sri Lanka, Myanmar, or either on grant or on loan. United States also has increased its naval presence in the Bay. The US Navy aircraft carrier recently visited the Bay of Bengal and the Greater Indian Ocean area and engaged in a planned exercise on 2 occasions in the last year. We can see that this militarization of the Bay of Bengal has added tension in the geopolitical arena in the Bay of Bengal. Therefore, it is for us to formulate a comprehensive strategy to use these rivalries and chart our course of action so as to reap the maximum benefit out of this confrontation and use it as a leverage to advance our own interest. I have a minute, sir. I have a minute. I want to talk about the climate change issues just for a very briefly. I was asked by the chairman to talk about climate change. But before that, I just want to tell you that I have personal interest on the marine biodiversity of Bay of Bengal because I was a diver in the Navy. So having experienced the physical chemistry of the ocean and the sea by being there, I'd just like to take a minute to talk about the climate change issue in the Bay of Bengal. Bay of Bengal is experiencing a host of adverse climate change phenomena. In the last 45 years, sea surface temperature in Bay of Bengal has risen by 0.2 degrees Celsius to 0.3 degrees Celsius, and is projected to rise by 2 degrees Celsius to 3 degrees Celsius by the end of this century. Now, because of these rise of temperature, the Bay of Bengal sea level is expected to rise by 37 centimeter by 2050, and by a meter by 2100, that is 2100. You can understand a 3-foot rise in the sea level would submerge majority of the outlying coastal area of the littorals of Bay of Bengal. As for us, Bangladesh, we estimate that about 20% of Bangladesh would be underwater by 2100, causing a displacement of 30 million people as a climate refugee. Because of these the change of temperature, especially the rising temperature, there would also be variation in the occurrence of tropical revolving storm and cyclones. Bay is already witnessing increased frequency and intensity of tropical cyclone in the last 2 decades. Of the 35, for your reference, of the 35 deadliest tropical cyclones that happened in the world, 24 have occurred in Bay of Bengal. The Global Climate Risk Index 2020 shows that intense cyclone, excessive rainfall and severe floods would adversely affect the littorals of the Bay of Bengal, causing loss of lives and also inducing climate refugee. Flood and drought has also increased over the years in the Bay of Bengal, which would pose growing threat to crop, plant and animal. Increasing sea temperature and CO2 absorption in the Bay of Bengal would be leading to ocean acidification, causing vulnerability to the fish species. Especially, we have already seen in the Bay of Bengal extinction of some of the species of the fish at the sea, and also depletion of coral plantation. Because of the acidification, there will be depletion of coral. In our own St. Martin's Island, we already have substantial amount of depletion of coral because of climate change and also the human-induced intervention. As for my, I can tell you, I would finish it by telling one of my experience of these, the coral depletion in the Bay, in this St. Martin's Island. We are under the auspices of the Navy. We are undertaking a project to kind of, look after the depletion of coral and also plant new coral in the coral reef, so as to restore to its present form. I would end up my talk here, and I would welcome any queries and clarifications during the interactive sessions. Thank you, sir.
Admiral, that was a very detailed explanation of the security landscape and the maritime security of the area. You touched on some very key issues. A particular interest to us would be to start with the Kaladan multimodal highway. I would ask all our participants, please have a look at the plan of the Kaladan multimodal highway, because it is something very close to Bangladesh. It starts at Sitwe, it reaches the Indian Northeast, and perhaps it is an alternative to the loss of Shiliguri corridor in case of an emergency. I would also like to point out that I said in my last intervention that CMAC has been constructed. So therefore the Chinese are already at Yakpu port. The Admiral mentioned about the pipeline going back to Yunnan, but it is not only a pipeline. Yakpu is going to become Chinese major energy hub. It is a place where they can perhaps bypass the dilemma of the Malacca Straits. There's going to be an oil refinery. There's going to be a gas drop zone. So it is going to be a multimodal energy hub for the Chinese, dropping all the energy that is being piped back to Yunnan. So therefore, the Yakpu port is not only important in terms of economy and trade, it will be a major energy hub for the region and for the Chinese, and will also have perhaps dual use capacity. I would also like to say that AUKUS is also bringing new connotations to the Bay, because the Chinese have expressed their concern that with the capacity of the Australian Navy increasing, perhaps this area will also come under focus. As the navies of India and certainly of China aspires to graduate from a brown water navy to a blue water navy, much of the region is coming under focus. And therefore, we as a Bay country are coming into the center of the whole game, either intentionally or unintentionally. So therefore, it is important for us to understand all the connotations, all the developments that are taking place. The Indian Ocean region strategy extends to the Bay of Bengal. So therefore, when we talk about the strategy implications of the Bay of Bengal, in many ways it is an extension of the Indian Ocean strategic implications, and has also the implications coming out of the South China Sea and the rivalry going on there. So this is a very complex mix of international players coming into the fore. We did not mention about Russia, but the Russians and the Russian Navy has also shown interest in the Indian Ocean region and in the Bay of Bengal. So we practically have all major players who have shown interest and are now becoming active players in the Indian Ocean region with an active focus on the Bay of Bengal. We have monitored that major crisscrossings of major navies have taken place in the region, also in the Bay. There has been freedom of navigation fleets movement of the 7th Fleet of the US Navy that came within the very close range of the Indian bases, and it was strongly protested by the Indian government and the Indian Navy, although it is the right of the US Navy to carry out freedom of navigation within the limits that they were carrying out. It is legitimate, it's legal. So therefore, we have not only interests of other navies in the area, we are now seeing bringing up of new legal issues coming to the fore. An issue that is close to my heart as somebody who has been working on climate change security issues for many years, as the chair of the Global Council on Climate Change and the Military Council, I know the Bay of Bengal has become the most vulnerable maritime space in terms of impacts of climate change. And that's an issue we'll address again towards the end. But I would like to say that the Bay of Bengal is not only strategically important, militarily important, it is economically extremely important, both in terms of trade and economy, in terms of geoenergy, in terms of the resources that lie there. So therefore, we would like to address these key issues. And our next speaker on the panel, Professor Parvez Karim Abbasi from the Department of Economics of East West University, is the right person to give us this analysis. Professor, you have the floor.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you, General Munir, sir. I almost feel like Bangladesh, because after following a veteran army man, a veteran navy man, here I am an ordinary civilian. There's a lot of conversation about India, a lot of conversation about USA and China. What was telling was the absence of Bangladesh in Bay of Bengal, a place which is intrinsically related to Bangladesh. So again, I'll be focusing on very mundane issues. Won't be very exciting, but I'll try to make it worth your while. So I have 10 minutes. The first 2 minutes will come up with an historical lesson with basically some wisdom which we would like to follow. Number 2 is we'll be looking into the geoenergy of Bay of Bengal, and especially, mind you, we're talking about Bangladesh's perspective. And last but not the least, we'll be talking about certain geoeconomic aspects, because it's a vast literature, geoeconomic aspects of resource exploitation and possible resource extraction for Bangladesh within the conceptual framework of blue economy. Last but not the least, if we have time, we'll be looking into a way forward. So this is the structure. Already 1 minute is gone. Now, one of the tragedies of Bangladesh is, though it's a maritime nation, we are almost consigned to a fate of landlubbers. What is landlubbers? Those who love to live on land. So, despite having conspicuous advantage of such an extended coastline, and also with our victories in terms of maritime delimitation, we have not been able to utilize the advantages that has been offered to us. It pains us to say that even Myanmar has beaten us in taking advantage of the potential of the Bay of Bengal. And for Bangladesh, what is worrisome is that even during the times of Shaista Khan, the legendary governor of Mughal Empire, who reclaimed Chittagong from the Morocco kingdom of Arakan, he had to rely on Dutch privateers and Portuguese renegade pirates to reconquer Chittagong. And lest we forget, the moment when the British East India Company came in, it didn't come with a lot of men. It came on the strength of its maritime prowess. The moment we lost our superiority on the ocean lanes was the moment where the most prosperous kingdom in India lost its freedom. And all this discussion on geoeconomics, blue economy means nothing, ladies and gentlemen, until and unless we develop a very capable modern navy. I believe the government is already investing in this, but navy which can take advantage or which can enforce our concepts of blue economy. Before that, nothing is. All of this is, again, good to talk in the seminar room, but that's about it. That's the historical lesson. The second one is the geoenergy of Bay of Bengal. Now, over here, we hear a lot of concepts about blue growth, blue economy, blue growth, and so on and so forth. So what is blue growth? Well, this is a long-term strategy. It supports sustainable growth. We economists love sustainable in everything. Sustainable growth in maritime sector as a whole. And this is commensurate with the Sustainable Development Goals 14, the various number of components over here. And when you are focusing on maritime growth, you're including aquaculture, coastal tourism, marine biotechnology, seabed mining, amongst many other things. And so proper resource management becomes vital. Now, when we talk about our energy requirements, 63% of our energy requirements are met by natural gas. And where does Bay of Bengal come in? Bay of Bengal has three particular well-defined basins. The Krishna-Godavari basin in India, the Rakhine basin in Myanmar, and most importantly, the Bengal basin of Bangladesh. And in terms of resource endowment, the Bengal basin of Bangladesh is the second most resourceful according to Geological Survey, but it is the least exploited. If we talk about hydrocarbon exploration, because in this age of energy crisis, that is what Bangladesh requires most, we have basically carried out 20 exploratory wells we've drilled. Only 2 has been successful, and you know about this. One is the Sangu reserves, and another one is basically the Kutubdia one. Sangu reserves is only 0.8 trillion cubic feet of hydrocarbon deposits, and Kutubdia has 0.04 trillion cubic feet. The Sangu reserves is almost depleted. The other 2, it is not economically extractable yet. That is the scope of this. Whereas only less than 1% of our natural gas supply comes from offshore exploration. So this is a big gap for us. Whereas if you look at Myanmar, it has recently discovered 4 trillion cubic feet of gas in the Mahar region or Mahar oil wells within the Rakhine basin. Now, why am I mentioning Myanmar and Bangladesh? You got it. Because in 2016, gas was discovered in Thalin 1A well. What is that Thalin 1A well? Now, this is in Myanmar's block AD7. These are the designations that you have. But block AD7 is adjacent to our deep sea block 12. So what does that mean? There's a concept called fugitive resource capture, because gas is amorphous. When you keep on extracting and there is no maritime delimitation. So when if I'm not extracting my gas in my block and another country keeps on exploring gas in the adjacent block, gas, because if there's a vacuum, gas will continue to come, almost like the Kuwait-Iraq syndrome. So it is in our own interests that we must go for robust deep sea mining and deep sea hydrocarbon exploration. And that again basically brings us to the role of Petrobangla. Petrobangla and BIPSS, right? Now they have basically divided our share of Bay of Bengal into basically 26 blocks. Over there, we have carried out 2D and 3D seismic surveys. And over here also, some of the blocks have been leased out. 2 to Indian companies, ONCG and Oil Company of India, and 2 more, one to the British company, Santos Chris Energy, and another one to POSCO Daewoo, which is again a South Korean conglomerate. But none have yet to basically yield significant amount of hydrocarbon deposits. So, but this is the point where the government has also stepped in, because over here, the Bangladesh Maritime Zone Act has come in, whereby it wants to conserve and also better manage maritime resources. But again, a lot of work needs to be done over here. There's also a need for capacity building within BIPSS, because that is our basically instrument or arm for which deals with contract negotiations. Now, when we talk about renewable energy, the coastal belt that we have, we can use this, but for this we're reliant on technology transfer. So whether we match up with the Chinese or the Dutch or the Australians who have significant expertise in this remains to be explored in the future. Now, that takes us to the blue economy part. I'm rushing a bit, but I hope we'll have some time later. The blue economy, this is what I call the color revolution, minus the political implications. Because once upon a time, there was brown economy, industrial production. Then we talked about green economy, with all due respect to the environment lovers. That means sustainable development. And then nowadays we have come up with blue economy. God knows what else economy will come up with. But again, it was popularized by Gonter Pauli. And over here, this idea, and this is basically an old concept of ocean economy, which is wedded to the concept of blue economy. Now, basically, in very simple layman's terms, is sustainable use of ocean resources for economic growth, improved livelihood, greater number of jobs, and ensuring oceans ecosystems' health. And of course, there's focus on fishery, aquaculture, food security, tourism, shipping, maritime transport, biotechnology, and medical technology. Now, again, these are things that you know. But now we are going to focus on what can Bangladesh achieve in the next 10, 20 years? And who do we need to partner up with? Now, for example, the first thing comes over here, shipping. Already it has been touched over here, because in 2017-18, 3,000 foreign ships in 1 year came to Bangladesh, because we have at least $80 billion of trade if you bring in import and export, roughly. And as of 2018, Bangladesh has only 42 registered ships. The numbers might have gone up slightly. And in the next 10 years, your freight volume is projected to grow by $435 billion. Bangladesh doesn't even capture 10% of this. Until and unless we develop our indigenous shipping industry, already steps are in, and we cannot basically go for value addition. The government has already undertaken steps, but public-private partnership viability gap funding is required. And this is where we can tie up with other countries who have had a lot of expertise. Australia is coming in strongly in Asia. United Kingdom is a giant who doesn't know what its power is. It is lost to its American cousins. And then again, with India, we are always worried that whenever we bring in India, the Chinese will mind, and whenever the Chinese are in, the Indians will mind. So they're goodbye BIMSTEC, just like SARC. Now, if we come back to this from shipping industry, we go into the coastal shipping or the feeder services, medium-sized services for basically national shipping or for medium distance shipping. Even in case of feeding services, 94% of our trade is conducted through maritime ports, but we have only 2. And again, the congestion and this has already been, it's common story. We are building another one. We are building another one in Mathabari and the one on Paira, God knows. But the idea is we have to increase our handling and berth capacities in Chittagong. That requires time. And that requires investment. And that also requires which country is politically acceptable to invest. Do we bring in the Japanese? Do we rope in the Chinese? Even the Russians have expressed interest in investing in a deep sea port in Ishwati, if memory serves me right. But post-Ukraine crisis, is it acceptable? See, Bangladesh as a small country has to juggle with a lot of things. Apart from this, see, we're talking about big ships and coastal ships, but there are also other things. Do you know that there are 300 shipyards and workshops in Bangladesh? And it does the little stuff, like inland vessels, fast patrol boats, dredging barges, passenger vehicles. Now, all of those things we require to expand capacity because backward supply linkages. Ship recycling. Now, that is growing in a massive manner, and it yields $2.4 billion in revenue for Bangladeshis. And most of the furniture that we have, the boilers that we have, that comes from the shipbuilding industry, recycling industry. But over there, ensuring better health of the workers, basically ensuring that toxic chemicals are not are actually regulated. That is important. I come to the last 3 minutes of this. Now we come to a more important thing. There's a saying in Bangla, "Mache bhate Bangali." That means a Bengali is known by his preference for fish in his cuisine. Well, on land we have 250 species of fishes. In our EEZ, we have 475 species of fish, 337 species of snails and other crustaceans, and several kinds of lobsters. But how many can we actually exploit? I'm giving you the numbers. 70,000 artisanal, mechanized and non-mechanized wooden boats, and only 250 industrial steel boats. That is the number that we have for our fishing industry. And already there are questions of the Myanmaris or the Chinese boats or the Vietnamese coming in and exploiting this. So again, Navy's expanded capacity must be invested so that we can protect this. Piracy, big problem. And again, the Navy's capacity is expanded, but we do require to invest significant amount of resources apart from lip services. No, I'm not angling for a lecture at BIMRAD. If people think that the way I'm basically hunting up to the Navy. But the next question is, and when you go for deep sea fishing, the maximum that we can catch is 40 meters. But most of where the goods lie is below 50 meters. So deep sea fishing is actually not taking place in Bangladesh. So those capacity needs to be installed. Vehicle tracking and monitoring system, or vessel tracking and monitoring system, and GPS coordination, Bangabandhu satellite. We need to link this up. Already steps are being taken in, but again, we need to look into this. And now the most important part of the program, or my speech, mineral resources. And what is it for? Now, over here, several things that we have ignored. Sea salt. The entire belt from Teknaf all the way over here to Patay, or from Teknaf onwards, it could be a hub of sea salt extraction. Thailand makes several million tons of sea salt. We don't. This is small scale farming is done, but it should be given an industrial basin. And then we come up to a beach material. And there's a 250-kilometer coastal belt that we have from Potenga to Teknaf, which can be used for this. If you talk about the beach material, the beach that is found again on the seashores, what are the things that we have? Zircon, rutile, mentine, garnet, and all along with this molybdenum, manganese, copper, lead, zinc sulfide, and monazite. Let me just tell you the uses of it, and then I'll finish this. Now, if we talk about monazite, it is found, do you know what monazite is? Even I didn't know this until I did my research. It is used in atomic bombs and nuclear reactors in significant quantities in Bay of Bengal. It is a strategic mineral, and not according to my word, Atomic Energy Commission of Bangladesh. And if you talk about manganese, phosphorus, polymetallic sulfide, these are used to refine rare earth metals. The world is of the rare earth metals, but you need to refine them for your microchips and semiconductors. We have this in Bangladesh, but we need, and we can also extract this economically, but we need the resources and transfer of technology. And along with this, we have even more interesting, uranium and thorium. And we don't need to tell you what uranium and thorium is required for, but we need money for research. We need money for capacity building. We need money for technology transfer. We need time for capacity building. And Bangladesh is already on this way, because if you talk about Delta Plan 2100, it has already factored in the concepts of blue economy. And there's also an oceanographic research institute that's open in Cox's Bazar. And there's a blue economic cell that's opened in 2014. And it is also, even in terms of sand, which is used for construction, we can extract 1 million metric tons of sand, which is vital for construction. Now, summing it up, what does this mean? Bangladesh has started the maritime race late, but that doesn't mean it has to always remain behind, because it is of great shame when we talk of Bay of Bengal. We hear India, we hear China, we hear USA, we even hear about, basically, even in the Indian Ocean realm, we hear about Sri Lanka. But what about the nation of early mariners who originated from Bengal? So this is a challenge that we must explore in the 21st century. Thank you.
Parvez, thank you very much for that excellent presentation. We will now open the floor, and let me give you some house rules. Please be very brief in asking your question or making a comment. We are speaking here on the record because all our recordings will be placed in YouTube channels of both Tribune and BIPSS. We are also publishing together with Dhaka Tribune a 2-page supplement after the event. So everything is being recorded and will be placed either on the newspaper or on the YouTube channel. So the floor is open. Please ask your questions and make a comment. Please indicate to me if you want to ask a question and want to get the floor. Let me just briefly scan the room and see how many hands do I see. Brigadier, sir, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chairman. I could see the economic aspect and prospect of Bangladesh vis-a-vis Indian Ocean has been adequately covered. I, being one of the Director of Military Operations for a long time, later an ambassador for about 13 years, I have some observation on something like economic aspect. One is very important aspect of a country that make a country robust or have strength to speak up. We have a strong neighbors, but I heard some of the details about their military arsenal, etc. But it has been overstressed on that, in that issue here. A lot of people say 17 or 90 ships and all. I've been there in India, been in ride with their navy, and they are not that strong. I don't know, he may disagree with me, Admiral. We have a lot of advantage in this Indian Ocean. If I'm wrong, he may correct me. First of all, no big ship can enter within 150 kilometers of Bangladesh. But nautical miles, yes, nautical miles, because of continental shelf is very far away. You have to come up to 150, after they cannot enter. During our liberation war, American ship came and they got stuck 50 nautical miles away. They couldn't get in. They wanted to, help Pakistan. They couldn't. So we shouldn't be too much optimistic about Indian Navy and all. And they still have old-time ships. Most of the ships they bought from British Navy, used it, modified it. That's how they continue. So it's not that effective things. We may have to go for different strategy. Particularly, I'm talking about our defense, not that economic aspect of it. The Indian, when they sank one of the submarines of Pakistan, they used their torpedo, small, boats, fast-moving boats. Two of them they went straight, fast-moving. They shot and that sank that, what is called? No, not Kazi, another one. Kazi, yes, that's right. And that's what we had to think about our defense also. What defense strategy we need to protect our country, because ours is, everybody mentioned that it is a resourceful country. Bangladesh being though small, it has a lot of importance in all respect. Our neighbors are there. Then now the interest of China has come in big way for Bangladesh. You have seen that BLI and all this thing. This is creating a lot of movement, and China is banking upon to really develop it. I had an article. Last time they had a big magazine where a lot of people wrote. I had also an article on this, and nobody can stop it. They want India to be with them, and India is going to be with them. So this aspect we have to look into in details. Our resources to be used best way, and as you have said, hundreds of ships are coming to Chittagong, which government is trying to develop. Then the one other in the on the other side, new one they're being building. This is also a great aspect of our future. So about our neighbors, sometimes we are always try to highlight their things that were this and that. You must have seen when China came in, they beat them up into the water, and hundreds of people got killed. So they are not that capable, I can tell you. But our defense must be thought of. Otherwise, we'll get dictation from our neighbors. They'll tell what to do, what not to do. I won't say much about it. This is what I have to say here. Thank you. Zahir, you have the floor.
Thank you very much. I want to make some remarks, then also make some observations, and thereafter give a proposition really, and then ask for response from the speakers. I have an antithesis really. If we see the strategic significance of Bay of Bengal, it reduced significantly after the British left. And as I remember, that the first big American visit to this area was after the cyclone of 1970, and thereafter the great cyclone of 1989, when their battleship Sarwar, the task force visited this area. I was at that time in Chittagong, and the Americans even didn't have the latest maps of this area. So you can understand that what you are talking about, the significance of Bay of Bengal. Yes, the southern Bay of Bengal was always significant, but the northern Bay of Bengal, I think the significance of northern Bay of Bengal is very recent, and it has become in the spotlight. Is because of two aspects: the China-Myanmar corridor and access to the bay, and also to some extent because of this Kaladan Valley project of India. So, but Bangladesh has always been marginalized in the greater, what I will say, that construct of security and also value that Bangladesh really deserved. But if we see that Bengal is the sea of three countries, this is the sea of Bangladesh, is also the sea of India, and it's the sea of Myanmar. But it is also outlet for Nepal, it's also outlet for Bhutan, and now it's also a significant outlet for China because of the Malacca dilemma they are facing. So that is a reality. The Malacca dilemma compels China to have a corridor and access to the Indian Ocean, and so this is an outlet. And this, because of this reason, the entry of China and the presence of China, that has really heightened the significance of the northern, what I would say, Bay of Bengal. But we should not forget, for Bangladesh, Bay of Bengal is the lifeline. For Bangladesh is the lifeline. All others have other exits. India has other exits. Myanmar has other exits. Well, Bangladesh, this is the only exit to the oceans. And that's why any geopolitical rivalry in this ocean, your bay, and also if you connecting the Indian Ocean, Bangladesh will be the greatest sufferer. And this we should, Bangladesh, remember. And just to say about Admiral Sarwar's last bit of this environmental side, I think it has been an oversight. He's an expert on this. But I think Bay of Bengal has turned into one of the most polluted sea now. And if this level of pollution continues, then marine lives will vanish. And I'm sure he wanted to highlight this, and he will highlight on this also if he get the chance. So that's why I want to make these few comments and make this proposition. Because of this, I think Bangladesh should moot a proposal, a concept of making Bay of Bengal a geopolitically neutral sea. It's a Kantian concept, but I said it's a Bangladesh interest to declare Bay of Bengal and fight for it to be a geopolitically neutral sea, meaning that all the users of this sea, especially the main users, should coexist peacefully and use this sea peacefully. And this is my concept. I would request all the speakers to respond to this. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Can I have Mr. Masood from Cosmos Foundation?
Thank you so much, General Muniruzzaman, for having me here today. It's a pleasure to be here. I don't really have a question, but just few comments I would like to just say. In particular about exploration of gas in the Bay of Bengal. So, in fact, I'm the Deputy Managing Director of Cosmo Group, and we've been in the oil and gas sector for the last almost 40 years. So I just wanted to share that, in fact, I had given a presentation at CPEX, which stands for Southeast Asian Petroleum Exploration Society in Singapore. And I'd done this before COVID, about 3 years ago, and almost about 30 international oil companies heads were present there. And I gave a presentation for Bangladesh. I gave a whole scenario of our gas sector here in the Bay of Bengal. The approximately gas reserves and the blocks and all that kind of things, the roadmap. And in fact, one thing I'm happy to share is that now finally we've been able to pursue the Bangladesh government, Petro Bangla, to upgrade this fiscal policy, to improve this the fiscal policy to attract the international oil companies. The reason why Myanmar next door has been drilling like crazy is because they have made it attractive for their oil companies to come and explore. So there has to be provisions where it is lucrative for the oil companies and for Bangladesh. They can export as well. So that is happening now. Just want to share with that. And so I think pretty soon we'll see. And also one more thing I would like to point out is that, you know, in the recent increase of LNG prices, I would also request that our government looks into having I think more of a balanced portfolio. We can have LNG, you can have renewables, we can have gas. So I think that's also important to look at, because also our gas reserves may be gone in 20 years' time. So that's also very important to extract at this time. Thanks very much.
Thank you very much. Next, the floor goes to High Commissioner of Sri Lanka.
I'll just highlight a few salient features. I'd like to take up what Major General was speaking about the strategic philosophy and also the security architecture. I think fundamentally, I think this is the most critical thing in the Bay of Bengal, because sitting in the middle of the Indian Ocean rim, Sri Lanka as an island is facing the heat of this kind of thing. So I think what has been elaborated in Major General's idea, which has been also spoken about others who are looking at the security concerns of Bay of Bengal. If we do not have a recognized and also what I call workable strategy for security, there's going to be a huge mess in this oceanic front in the coming years. And both Sri Lanka and Bangladesh are located at the two corners of the Bay of Bengal, and we feel the heat of this, because the influence and the pressures our countries face, it may not be very visible, but also it could be really what I call undermining factor to our countries. We are looking at, because this issue, I think we have to go beyond Bay of Bengal and see how we can synchronize with the Indian Ocean rim. I think it was Brewster who was talking about an Indian Ocean Security Forum some time back. But unfortunately for the Bay of Bengal, we still have the Tricontinental Maritime Agreement, which is linked to Sri Lanka, India, and Maldives. Bangladesh and Seychelles are observers. I think Bangladesh must come in a big way for this, because this is one of the starting points we are looking at about the security concerns. We are also looking at the commonality and centrality of the Bay of Bengal. This kind of everything revolves around this, because we have recognized the importance and the significance of the Bay of Bengal, but also the commonality of it. How could we reach out? If it's a common ocean, we should also recognize our common heritage. This heritage is something which we can connect to each other, identify each other's interests, and also have what we call a feasible policy recognized by all countries. This, I always thought that this goes beyond the BIMSTEC and the SAARC agenda. This has to be taken at a different level altogether, because we find different areas, zoning, because we are doing a fair amount of research in Sri Lanka on Bay of Bengal. We are looking at the zoning of Bay of Bengal. We are looking at the hinterland and the maritime provinces. We are looking at the resources. We are looking at the heritage. We are looking at all the economic systems. We are looking at also the histories of these parts of the country, because this Bay of Bengal put up some of the most spectacular civilizations in the over 3,000 years. So we have to recognize and take cognizance of what we can take from history. The other important thing is my friend Professor Parvez was talking about resources, especially maritime resources, and mineral resources and the marine resources. This again something what we have been doing resources and the research onto this. I think it's a good thing for our countries to combine our resources. Our research centers, Sri Lanka is also having maritime research centers and also institutes for oceanic research centers. Now these things we have been looking at about climate change, especially mineral resources within these areas. So, I mean, for instance, what you talk about rutile, we are having a huge export market when we are exporting that, but we are also looking at keeping the coastal line, which is in the coastal areas, how we protect the coastline without over-exploiting these resources. So this is something what Bangladesh can exploit and also protect your coastline. Then also, we are Indian Ocean, we have the formation of the geological formations of the plate boundaries. Now the plate boundaries run all the way through Indian Ocean, south of Sri Lanka. Actually, there are at least 3 to 4 plate boundaries running through Sri Lanka. Now, all these plate boundaries, which is also connecting to Bangladesh, but at a very deep level, they are very rich in mineral resources. So one must look at these things as much as you have to, protect the environment, exploit the resources very sensibly, and also how we latch on to each other in our research agendas. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. But before you leave the microphone, would you like to give us a status report on Hambantota port, because it came up quite frequently in the discussion now and before?
Well, Hambantota, you find a lot of news in the Sri Lankan and international media. Hambantota was originally, it is operating now as a kind of a, it's one of the redistribution centers. And at the moment, China is having a section of it where they bring their goods or they transport or they transship those things, and the Sri Lankan government operate in the other sector. Now, unfortunately, Hambantota has been used as a catchword on the the debt trap of Sri Lanka, or what the Chinese are doing. So originally, Hambantota was offered to, invited China actually to come and place its infrastructure and also to work on it, but India did not comply. And then we were just recovering a 30-year-old war. So we had to look at the Chinese and others who are interested in developing this port. And this goes for, we are now having the Colombo port development. It is a massive thing. It is going to be probably one of the central points in the Indian Ocean rim for shipping. And it's taking off very well. And I've been telling my Bangladesh colleagues, this is a time to invest if you want to invest, because Sri Lanka is a very open country. We have even better laissez-faire than the United States. So if you want to invest, this is the time to do it. And port city of Colombo, and it's developing very well. So I think it's, I'm just talking this place. And the third port is, of course, Trincomalee. This is the old port of what was developed during the World War period. It's an old port historically. We got major oil tanks there. We collect oil and then also redistribute. And one of the best natural harbors in the world. So Sri Lanka, we've been actually just talking about the feeder service, Major General. The shipping talks are just coming up with Bangladesh, so we are having those two going on. And we have 3 ports to service. So Sri Lanka's, strategic location for shipping, especially for Bangladesh, is very important. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. The next question, Editor, Defense Journal, Mr. Rusht.
Thank you, sir. All things are covered. I just have 2 or 3 points. What General Joy sir has told, that Bangladesh, Myanmar, and India are the main stakeholders in the Bay of Bengal region. And Myanmar has created some problem with us. And if you consider the present day situation and the happenings in Ukraine concerning Russia, only 3 countries, they have openly supported the Russian aggression against Ukraine. One is Syria, one is this Myanmar, another one obviously is Belarus. So Myanmar is just beside us and is one of the major stakeholders in the Bay of Bengal region. So I think in the coming days, this place will have a lot of activities and a lot of alignment, because the world alignment is going to be changed. It will dramatically change. Come what it may, it will be changing. If we think just 10 days back, now the world is different, and it will be different in future. How the things will unfold, you will see, we will also see. We can just predict, but we are not sure. It depends on the decision on the Russians, it depends on the decision on the NATO countries, but we are going to have some stakes on that also. Because Myanmar, again I am telling Myanmar, they have created a lot of problems for us. We didn't ask for it. Someone dragged us into the problem, Rohingya issue. So this area is going to have some problem in the Bay of Bengal region. Others, you see what is happening in Myanmar, a repressive military junta. Simple. Okay, China has built a deep sea port. How is going to, okay, they will take the logistics and other things, everybody is talking about it. But why are you excluding this thing, which is affecting us, the Bangladeshis and the other countries of the world? They have imposed a repressive regime in Myanmar and supporting the United Nations, vetoing against us. Then without solving this problem, how we are going to have a safe and secure Bay of Bengal? How this CIMEC is going to be operative? How this BRI is going to be operative properly connecting Bangladesh? So a lot of things will be there. Insurgencies are growing in Myanmar, so that will be the hotbed for next conflict in this region. I think this should we should keep in mind also. Thank you.
Thank you. We are about to finish. Ambassador, please, you have the floor. Please be very brief because we're about to finish.
My name is Shahid. I worked for long abroad and in Bangladesh. The topic today, we are discussing the strategic significance of Bay of Bengal and the role of Bangladesh. Well, I'll be very brief because we have had a lot of very, very useful information from the experts, and I've heard with interest. But I will only add, when we say strategic significance of Bay of Bengal, to my mind, our good friend India and China, they are the two strong strategic players in this region. And we have to keep, as for the role of Bangladesh, we maintain good relationship with these two countries. So that is a very important role Bangladesh is playing by balancing its relations with these two important countries in this area. And well, other vessels will ply, other resources are there. And you know, when I started my career, it was related to, I think we had some discussion on the exploration of the Bay of Bengal. And I used to work with a foreign oil company for a short period before I joined, came into the mainstream of the service. I had the chance to go to the Bay of, to visit the rig and visit the Bay of Bengal. And it is loaded with serene blue water with plenty of resources, with my very limited knowledge at that time. And since then, I have seen it has moved by leaps and bounds in every area. Where Bangladesh, even at that stage, was very obvious in playing its due role. But I think still, in the process of last 50 years of our independence, our trade, commerce, our military interest, strategic interest has increased manifold. So we need to gear it up, think very seriously how we can jointly work without disturbing, and I think the Sri Lankan High Commissioner also given us some new brilliant ideas that we can have some good strategic partnership with a number of countries who can come forward and bring better relationship and understanding, and the role of Bangladesh will enhance. Well, these are my observations. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Ambassador. We now go back to our panel members. The panelists may take about a minute or a minute and a half to give you very summary of responses. We're going in the reverse order. So, Parvez, you have the floor.
I'll be very, very brief because only one or two questions were tangentially addressed at me. Number one, yes, the Sri Lankan High Commissioner is quite right
because there can be further technological collaboration with Sri Lanka, though we Bangladeshis and Sri Lankans tend to like each other more than any other part of the world, but somehow the degree of economic and again trade and technology transfer that's supposed to take place between Bangladesh and Sri Lanka somehow has fizzled off after the post-SARC era, if you know what I mean. Number two, if you're talking about, again, there was some very interesting observation. Oh, yes. Again, I'm well aware of Cosmos Foundation, and I think Uncle is, again, very active in this. Yes, we cannot expect investment in Bangladesh, and especially foreign direct investment, without generous assurances and policy continuity. Today, one regime gives one particular company an offer, and then, God forbid, that regime changes, all of a sudden we find glaring holes in that contract. And then we are saying that we will get all the investment in the world. Nobody is going to come and invest in this country if there is no policy continuity. If we disown our predecessors' work, there's nothing going to work. Ease of doing business, if it doesn't improve, nobody's going to come and invest in this country. Even if Myanmar is a dystopian junta-run place, people are going to invest over there because businessmen are after profit. Let's get off our ideal high horses. And last but not the least, why do we say Myanmar's only friend is Russia? Russia is also our very good friend. Rupur nuclear power plant. A military, they're also our fourth largest development partner, $1.4 billion. The Russians are smart, at least in our case, thank God. Bangladesh is on its way up. Myanmar is on its way down. Even a fool can say so. I think the Russians can invest over there. And again, we only give Myanmar a bad name that the Chinese support them. But the Indians are as passionate in their support for the Myanmar junta, if not more. Somehow, in case of Myanmar, we become the step siblings. We have to find our own allies. Yes, and this is also true, and what you did not say, but reading between the lines, if we have to realize our potential of Bay of Bengal, either things have to be resolved with Myanmar, or things have to deteriorate significantly in Myanmar so that our maritime assets can come into play. What happens? Only time will tell. Thank you.
Let me clarify a few points that have been brought out by some of the participants. About the larger ship coming to 150 miles of Bangladesh.
If it was a warship, if you are talking about a warship, aircraft carrier, now, there are two dimensions to this. One is aircraft carrier doesn't have, for aircraft carrier to come and operate, doesn't have to come very close to the shore. Number one, because it has a stand-up distance, it can operate. So it's not, it doesn't have to become so close, number one. And number two is there was an aircraft carrier which operated close to the coast of Bay of Bengal in our War of Liberation in 1971. INS Vikrant came and operated off Cox's Bazar. So this is clarification that I wanted to talk about. The other clarification that I wanted to about the security mechanism and the security organizations in the Bay of Bengal, established security mechanism or construct absence of the security mechanism. Now, let's talk about BIPSS. BIPSS has few agendas which deals with climate change and also illegal migration. Now, if you talk about the non-traditional maritime security spectrum, the illegal migration through maritime space and also the climate-induced disasters are also part of the non-traditional security agenda. Non-traditional security, the threats that we have in the Bay of Bengal. So the BIPSS has two charter on this. So this is a kind of make and shift of security mechanism that we have. Number three is there is an organization, there is an arrangement called IONS, Indian Ocean Naval Symposium, which is an enclave of the naval personnel for exactly the Navy chiefs of the Indian Ocean navies, who sit together and discuss about the security issues and suggest their various modalities that can be undertaken. Now, in the IONS, Bay of Bengal is represented as very strongly considering the countries, they lace the Bay of Bengal, Bangladesh, India, Sri Lanka, and also Myanmar. So that is another mechanism that is in place for looking after some of the security issues of the Bay of Bengal. Now I'm coming back to the. I just want to substantiate some of the comments made by Professor Parvez Karim Abbasi about the strengthening of the Navy. I understand. I'm not going to advocate for strengthening the Navy because from being in the Navy. But what I want to submit is the increasing the maritime domain awareness among all the stakeholders that are involved in the business of maritime affairs. It is not only the Navy, not only the Coast Guard, also all the agencies, those go out to sea and operate, and also who regulate various activities in the maritime affairs should put their act together in an integrated and concerted manner so as to raise the maritime domain awareness among not only among the practitioners but also among the entire population of the country. When we talk about sea, we talk about only Cox's Bazar and Pothinga. The entire population, need to go beyond Cox's Bazar, beyond Pothinga, and see the prospect, see the resources that we have in the sea and how this can be best, utilized for the national interest. Last point about, I again want to substantiate General Jahid's talk about the pollution. I'm just very brief, sir. There are three issues of sea pollution that is really hazarding the Bangladesh's economic and also security prospect. Number one is the plastic, non-degradable plastic, pollution at sea, and proliferation at an unprecedented rate in the Bay of Bengal. Number two is the emergence of a dead zone. There is a dead zone. The German and the Indian scientists have come up with a dead zone. A dead zone has been found out in the Bay of Bengal, which is about 60 square kilometer dead zone. The dead zone is bereft of oxygen. There is not much oxygen supply in those dead zones. As a result, most of these sea species would probably die out very soon. So this is
known as the black hole of the Bay of Bengal.
Yes, sir. It is known as the black hole of the Bengal. Thank you for commenting. So these dead zones, are also are hazardous for the prospect of Bay of Bengal, especially in fisheries and marine biodiversity. Number three is the ships recycling plant, which we just heard from Professor Abbasi. Now, ship recycling also create enormous amount of pollution. Enormous, because of two reasons. One, it's a profit-driven industry, and there is no concern about the health and the pollution issues. Number two is there are not enough regulatory framework set up by our government and concerned ministries to regulate the pollution that takes place in the sea. Especially even the maritime shipping ordinance that we had was probably corrected in 1983, which is way back. It did not have provisions for pollution. So these are some of the regulatory framework that we need immediately to arrest pollution in the Bay of Bengal. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
3 points. The first is the one that you made about in your remarks, security structure. I think that's a very interesting point to make. I think we need to have a separate roundtable on this. Forum 1 is very respectable, very about an idea of a common security structure in the Bay of Bengal for a host of reasons. About our long container shelves, don't fly into rhapsody with this idea of long container shelf. If our ships our frigates can use and come in and berth in our area, then it's immaterial. In any case, today modern ships rely on the standard of distance. And that is why the platforms are moving, the platforms are static. So I think this is the point. Well, just a point, General Zahir, about zone of peace. You remember Zofpan? It rings a bell? Yes. What's happened to Zofpan? Zone of peace, freedom and neutrality, signed in 74 by the ASEAN nations. Every single ASEAN country now has its own dynamics with big powers. And the Singapore has their own equation with China, so as Indonesia, so as Malaysia. So therefore, the undertone of Zofpan has been defeated long ago. So I think it's again a very, very holy thought of a neutral area. It sounds very nice. We'd like to have a zone of peace, freedom, neutrality, but then the reality is different. I think you know very well.
So far as use of the
area. Well, use of the area because you know the big powers.
We have our interests.
We have our interests, but big powers find in the Bay of Bengal, as the Admiral said, their interests are coterminal insofar as this Bay of Bengal is concerned. So therefore, and their policies. So therefore, it is. As far as Myanmar is concerned, policies. Who are the main backers of Myanmar? Who have consistently vetoed all UN motions in the Security Council? Who are our three good friends: India, Russia, and China. So beat your head and cry over as much as you want to, and cry hoarse till kingdom come. Realities, there are practical realities, realpolitik, these are realpolitik. You see, so Myanmar has a greater strategic importance to Russia and China than Bangladesh. Let us accept it. It is the truth. You cannot provide anything like Kaladan to India. You cannot provide the port like to China. So therefore, why will they veto? Why will they? And so far as the Rakhine is concerned, that state is rich in mineral oil, and that will be denuded of all the population, not only Muslims but all the local populations, denuded, so that a special zone is made for the Chinese. So these are real politics. They have to live with it. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. We have come to the end of the discussion, which has been extremely rich and wonderful analysis of this critical maritime space has been made by our experts and also participants. I would not like to summarize the discussion, but I would only like to end with some food for thought what Bangladesh can do. Bangladesh, unfortunately, even as a key maritime member of the Bay of Bengal, has not been playing a prominent role. We need to understand our capacity, our relevance, and our leveraging capacities and make the best use of it. We are an important member of the Bay of Bengal and the Indian Ocean region, and that's the way we should behave. The Bay of Bengal also has critical relevance to hinterland states which are landlocked, like Nepal, like Bhutan, like parts of India, northeast, like the southern part of China, the Yunnan province. So those are spaces that once gateways to the Bay of Bengal, and Bangladesh should provide that gateway that can leverage our position to greater heights. Bangladesh is a unique member of both BRI as a signatory and IPS, Indo-Pacific Strategy, as a member that believes in its principles. So we must play an important role in sort of bridging the two concepts into the Bay, which is non-military in nature. I would say that we are a critically affected country by climate change. So therefore, the climate change impacts on the Bay of Bengal and Indian Ocean should be a high agenda on our total national policies. We should also work closely on restoring the marine ecology of the Bay of Bengal. As I said in the beginning, the maritime space does not have a security architecture. Therefore, we might take some initiatives in proposing security architectures that are acceptable to the members of the Bay of Bengal and the Indian Ocean littoral countries. There are several Track 2 initiatives currently on about the Indian Ocean. Some have graduated to Track 1, like IONS. There is a Gold Dialogue process. Bangladesh is absent in proposing any process. So Bangladesh should take the initiative in proposing an active Track 2 process for the Bay of Bengal and the Indian Ocean region. Although Bangladesh has demarcated its maritime boundary, we've got our own EEZs and continental shelf, but they've been grossly underutilized. It is time for us to have a comprehensive policy how to utilize those maritime spaces. And last but not the least, the Indian Ocean region and the Bay of Bengal is a very vulnerable country in terms of non-traditional security challenges, including climate change. Bangladesh is in the forefront, so therefore Bangladesh can take an initiative, even through the IORA, of which we chair now, to craft out a non-traditional security strategy for the maritime space of the Bay of Bengal and the Indian Ocean. And overall, Bangladesh should also work in proposing what is being called a Bay of Bengal community, which encompasses many of the issues that we are talking. It is an important maritime space of which we are a member. We have to play our very vital role and leverage our importance in all international relations. I would also like to leave by a historical anecdote before I finish. Lord Wavell, when handing over the charge to Lord Mountbatten, said a very important advice for him, that look after the defense of the Indian Ocean, in particular, pay special attention to the Bay of Bengal. So that is the kind of focus that we all need. I thank you all for being with us this afternoon. Please come and attend our roundtable stand next month for more interesting discussions and insights. Thank you all very much. Thank you.